I'm Sherilyn Skolnicki, and this is Brilliant Balance, the show for working women who are ready to shine. Each week, I bring you ideas, inspiration, and insight on balance, business, and getting it all done gracefully. You ready? Let's be brilliant. This is episode 219 of the Brilliant Balance podcast. And today I'm sharing a few things I learned in 2021 that I am carrying with me into 2022. So, first things first, let me wish you a very happy new year. I know that collectively we are yearning to turn the page on this year. It's like the 1 year aberration of 2020 somehow turned into 2 years of aberration, and no one saw it coming. And here we are at the first page of a brand new year, 2022, filled with possibility, just like they always are. And I know we're so ready for this. I know I'm so ready for this. Our community is so ready for this, and you as a listener are probably so ready for this. So here is to 2022 and all that it has in store for us. And yet I also know that a lot of us are walking into this year with maybe more fear, more anxiety, less certainty than we're used to having. Because when we're in a steady state for a while and things are going swimmingly, it's easy to get lulled into the belief that they'll stay that way. And so if you're standing here at the beginning of this year feeling a little uneasy, I just want you to know how normal that is and how much I'm hearing it from the women who I coach and just from friends and family and neighbors. It's a new feeling to be standing a little more timidly at the beginning of a new year. So my encouragement to all of us is, let's not let us rob us. Let's not let the events of the last couple of years rob us of our optimism, our hopefulness, all the things that make humanity what it is. And yet, let us remain agile and responsive and ready and know maybe that the last couple of years have brought us greater confidence that we can take and will handle whatever this year brings. So this episode, I just jotted down a few words. I don't have a lot of things prepared, but I wanted to reflect personally, honestly, on some of the things that I feel like I've learned in 2021 and that I will carry with me into this new year. And then I thought it might be fun or interesting to share those with you. So I have just a handful. I could have gone on and on. I really feel like I learned a lot this year, but I'm gonna boil it down to a few nuggets that I think maybe we can all learn from together. So the first thing when I was thinking back on this year that I've really learned is that life is dynamic. And by that I mean, I guess the definition of the word, ever-changing. Every single thing in life is sort of in flux all the time. And I remember learning this from a dear friend very early in parenting. Her kids are older than mine, and I remember her telling me when I was in a difficult stage with my firstborn, probably something related to teething or who knows what. And she said, listen, what I can tell you for sure as an experienced parent is that nothing lasts forever. All these difficult stages sort of morph and transition and change and evolve. And so just ride it out, because it's just not going to last. And she was right, of course, absolutely right about that. So does literally everything else in the universe, right? Our bodies change, our relationships change, our careers change, our home environment changes, the climate changes. I mean, everything around us is in a constant state of flux. The Buddhists actually call this impermanence. And truly, all peace is rooted in the acceptance of impermanence, right? In just quiet acceptance of the fact, and it is a fact, that nothing stays the same, right? Just knowing that, just accepting that really eases the pain when something good ends or when something difficult is there to be endured. the realization that nothing lasts forever. Now, it works both ways, right? Good things end or change or shift, and we think something has gone wrong. Because this is changing, something has gone wrong and I must figure it out, right? If I can figure it out, I can stop it from happening. And in that response, we really suffer, sometimes enormously. And then conversely, when things are really good, we want to hold on to them as though they're not going to change. Or when things are not so good, we think that's going to go on forever. And we can start to fall into despair and lose hope because we don't have a sense that it can in fact lift, that it can in fact improve. So this realization that life is dynamic, everything, and that my role is not to try to keep it the way it is, but rather to ride the waves as they come, relishing the good, cherishing, savoring those moments, however long they last, years sometimes, right, that are good, and also to quietly endure the times that are not so good, trusting that they too will morph, they will soften, they will change. So, if I only had one thing to extract from this year, it would be this lesson. And I learned it in so many different ways and so many different moments and from so many different teachers, some of them who knew they were teaching, some of them who had no idea they were teaching. But this lesson, I feel like, just was presented to me over and over and over again during 2021. That notion of embracing whatever is. And I am definitely carrying that with me into 2022. That's probably related to my second lesson. My second lesson, and coming from me, this might be somewhat surprising, but my second lesson was that having a plan is not always the best plan. I know that's a little backwards in the articulation here, but having a plan is not always the best plan. Here's what I mean. I made a lot of plans this year. I always make a lot of plans. It's kind of my nature. I basically teach it, right? Having a plan is a good idea. Having an intention, knowing what we intend to do is generally a good idea. And I made a lot of plans this year, just like I always do. And I threw a lot of them out. A lot of them got crossed out, pushed aside, ignored. I let go of so many things that I thought were just as sure of happening as the sun rising and setting, like guaranteed. I thought these things were my plan until they weren't. Now, how I did not grasp this lesson in 2020 is beyond me, right? Because we all learned this lesson in 2020. Who would have ever thought that schools would close and churches would close and businesses would shut down and airlines would shut? Who would have ever imagined that so many of our plans would have to be canceled? And we all certainly learned that lesson in 2020. But apparently I needed another year of the advanced class on this particular lesson. And this whole lesson really led me to a new posture, a new approach, which I think of as responsiveness, responding to things as they happen. And this has been as effective, if not more effective, than having a plan in many instances for me this year. I still love a good base plan. Okay, I think it's a good idea to have some sense of, hey, if all goes well, if things do unfold tomorrow the way I intend for them to, this is what I will do, right? Or this is how I will order my day. But it is also important, and maybe we could encapsulate this as just calling it a plan B, or maybe plans B through Z, right? All of the permutations, is that whatever does happen that is unexpected, I'll handle it. And sometimes it's easier to handle it if I'm not mourning the loss of my plan. Okay, so that's really my insight in this is when I'm so attached to the plan and I think the plan is really going to happen, then I'm kind of annoyed, maybe even angry or frustrated or stressed or undone when something gets in the way of the plan. The lesson, and it's just risen to the top so repeatedly this year, is have a plan, but sort of trust that you'll figure something out if that plan doesn't get executed the way you thought. There's a sense of agility in this. There's a sense of sort of calm in the storm, right? That comes with this. And I really cannot say that I was good at this. For many, many, many years, I clung really tightly to my plans. They were so important to me. And this year, I think I'm finally getting this lesson. Now, I say that. I don't want to tempt fate here to teach it to me even more aggressively next year. But I will say the word responsive has been incredibly calming to me this year. This posture of responsiveness, of knowing that whatever happens, I will handle it. I will not try to see around every single corner and prevent every possible unwanted outcome, right? I will handle what happens with as much grace and as much calm as I can muster in that moment. So that was my second big lesson of 2021. And much like the first one, it played out across a variety of, areas in my life, not just one area, but a variety of areas. Do you ever find yourself saying, I just need a minute to breathe? While the whole idea of meditation can sound totally intimidating, I've found that stepping away from the chaos of life, even just for a few minutes, is incredibly restorative. So if you're short on time, but could use a few moments of peace right about now, listen to my 5-minute meditation for working moms. It'll help you clear your head and come back to your day feeling centered and refreshed. Head over to brilliant-balance.com/breathe. Press play and settle in for a few mini moments of peace right now. Okay, the third thing that I really saw play out in a couple of places is the power of treating the source and not the symptoms. So I thought about how I was going to articulate this for the podcast. And I really think that whenever we have a problem, there are sort of two pathways to relief. One is I can alleviate the symptoms of this problem, right? I can make myself feel better, but the core problem still exists. The second is I can actually go to the source of the problem and try to alleviate that, right? Remove the cause of the problem, the cause of the pain, in order to get some relief. And treating the source is always better. Now, it's not always possible. Okay, it's not always possible. So sometimes our very best option is to treat the symptoms. But man, when it is the better option. So I think my lesson in this, and this played out in the Brilliant Balance business in one big way, I sort of had a repetitive problem that I kept bumping up against. And like every time I turned around, this same problem was, gnawing at me, and I kept trying to treat the symptoms. And finally, this year, collectively as a team, we treated the source. And then boom, it's like the problem is just gone. Right? The symptoms aren't there anymore. The problem's gone because we did the hard work of going to the source of that problem, which was a business model challenge, right? That needed to be changed. Personally, in my personal life, this has shown up in a couple of different ways, right? And I'm not going to talk about all of them in this episode, but the notion of you can chase your tail around symptoms, whether they are health-related symptoms, whether they are relationship-related symptoms, whether it's something about your home environment that's not working or the school environment that's not working. And you can keep trying to treat the effects of that, right? And sort of soothe everybody's nerves about it and keep everyone calm. Or you can do the work at the root. And that is not always easy. It's not even always easy to find the root, right? Sometimes finding the root is a treasure hunt. It is detective work. But when you do, like the pathways that open because that problem has been treated from the source it's just phenomenal. So that lesson for me will cause me to really question, have I found the source or am I treating symptoms? how could I find the source? Am I willing to do what it takes to find it and to really get to the root? Because there's so much power there. Fourth thing that I learned this year is there is nothing like the voice of experience. I may have talked about this in another episode of the show. I probably did. But when we are walking through unfamiliar territory, having a guide is an exceptional gift. As I think back on this year, I've gotten to play this role for people and see the just relief in their eyes when they realize someone gets it, and someone knows how to walk them through this piece of road that they're on. And it is such a blessing to play that role. I bet you've played that role for someone in some aspect of your life and theirs, and it is such an honor to do it. And I've had that role played for me by a number of people this year, and it is such a blessing. When someone can look at you and say, I've been there, I see you, I understand, and I mean, all the better if they can also say, I know what to do. They can't always say that, but sometimes when they can say, I see you, I understand you, and I know what to do, it is unreal how powerful that is. It's like we must all naturally crave this because it's so powerful. But I think sometimes what gets in our way is we hide our inexperience, we hide our insecurity. We're ashamed of the fact that we don't know. And that robs us of the chance to find a guide because we're trying to figure everything out on our own. So, my realization this year that when you find that guide, it's everything. There's so much peace, so much courage, so much calming that comes from knowing someone else has been there. And even if they don't know exactly what to do, they have so much compassion for whatever situation you're facing, right? And again, often they do know what to do because that's what the voice of experience does. If your N is one, right, you've seen this one and only one time, they have an N of many. They have seen this many times, and therefore it's patterning, and therefore they know what to do. So there is nothing like the voice of experience. I have never been more grateful for finding those guides in my own life, and I've never felt more honored to play that role for other people. And then the fifth one, this last one I'm going to share, maybe it's a little lighter, but I just almost can't believe how true this is, that foundational balance practices really work. I have walked a lot of people through some pretty difficult things this year. And I've walked through some difficult things this year. And day in and day out, these very simple foundational practices really are enough to keep you putting one foot in front of the other and just to keep you moving forward, even if it's in micro steps. Things like sleep. Being mindful of getting sleep, being protective even of getting sleep at the expense of other things. Movement, even if it is the simplest, gentlest movement for a few minutes, like a few yoga poses or stretches or a short walk. Movement is just such powerful sustenance, right? To keep us feeling like we're grounded. Breath work. And I don't mean anything fancy. I am talking about breathe in, blow it out, right? But breath work, just paying attention throughout the day and asking yourself, am I actually breathing? I mean, of course you are, right? But am I breathing in a way that is truly exchanging oxygen? Am I really taking that breath in and letting it out? Things like a hot shower or a cup of hot tea, right? It is amazing how sustaining these seemingly teensy small practices can be. They're like tiny little movements, and yet they hold so much power because when nothing feels like it's working, right? When everything feels out of sync, you can do these things. these tiny little things, and they really are enough to move you through those periods and get you back to the next level. So those are a few lessons that I feel like I have learned this year that I wanted to share with you as we move into this new year. I am carrying these with me, sort of tucked into my heart, and I know that they will still be needed, right, in whatever this new year has in store for me, and perhaps they will be of service to you as well. I would encourage you to make your own list. As you start this new year, what are some things that you're carrying with you as lessons that you learned in the year prior? What will you be mindful of as you move into this brand new year? And I'm so grateful to have you in this Brilliant Balance community with us as a podcast listener, as a member of this community. Please make sure that you're getting our weekly email communication. It'll show up on your digital doorstep every Tuesday. That's how you can make sure you always get the latest episode of the podcast. You can always make sure that you're getting all of our goodies. So make sure you subscribe to that. That's at brilliant-balance.com/weekly. Just get yourself on the list. Another great place to stay connected is the Facebook group called Brilliant Balance. Just go to Facebook, search groups for Brilliant Balance, and we will welcome you in. That is all for today, my friends. Till next time, let's be brilliant.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.